What's up guys, Cody here. Today back with more Ethereal Clash of Souls content. So these next couple of videos are going to be talking about the different myths in the game, what their potential abilities are going to be, and potential item builds to go with them. I'm only going to be putting out one or two of these each day, just because that there's the Friday feature, fact, whatever you want to call it, coming out real soon, which could have some very interesting information, and I'd rather not make a ton of videos about this and then they release all the abilities or that. So yeah, we're going to be looking at Dante today, which is going to be a very easy one to look at because we already know off his abilities. Dante has a dash, a grenade, a rapid fire ability, a laser.
It's the whole dev team.
There we go.
So on the surface, Dante seems very much like Lucian from League of Legends, which has me a little bit worried about him in terms of balancing, because Lucian in League of Legends is very hard to balance in terms of he's oftentimes super oppressive in a solo lane and super weak in the bot lane as a traditional ADC. So it'll be interesting to see if that problem arises in Ethereal as well. But yeah, I've got 4 builds, you could say, for Dante here. And the first one is just going to be your generic ADC crit build. So starting off with Axe of Credo into Thunder Bowblade, Spiked Boots, Crystal Sword, Obsidian Bow, Penny's Pen, and Redemption Gauntlet. Axe of Credo is a must-have first buy with this type of build. Main thing is that it gives physical penetration, which is an extremely useful stat early on into the game, and Axe of Credo significantly amps up our damage output as we get more items, since every time we critically strike with this item, 20% of our crit damage becomes true damage. Thunder Bowblade is another must-have item for a crit chance build, especially as a second item. It gives good stats, and its passive is extremely valuable. Every time we crit, we're going to get increased move speed and increased attack speed. And increased move speed in particular is very useful for your typical marksman, just because it allows them to position better and it gives them chase potential as well. The attack speed is also very nice. When it's fully stacked, the item itself will be giving 45% attack speed and 30 move speed. Spiked Boots is the only boots in the game that gives attack speed, so it makes sense to pick it up. And then Crystal Sword is going to be our Infinity Edge. Gives us a good chunk of AD and more crit chance, and it's going to make our crits do 220% damage instead of, I think, 200% damage. We're at the midway point in our build with 3 items completed and boots. This gives us a total of 145 AD, 30 physical penetration, 30% attack speed, and 65% crit chance. And if our Thunder Bowblade and Spiked Boots get fully stacked, that's another 30% attack speed for a total of 60%. At this point, we're outputting a good chunk of damage, but there's one last item that we need for the core of our crit build, Obsidian Bow. Obsidian Bow has a passive that after we've landed 3 critical hits, our next basic attack will have 100% extra critical damage. This is just the perfect way to wrap up the core of our crit build, as it adds so much extra oomph, and it'll end up topping us off with 90% crit chance. Unfortunately, there is no good way to get 100% crit chance in 4 items. The only way to do so would be to build Eon's Bow, which has the same passive as Crystal Sword, which means it's just inefficient to do so. Now, if someone comes along and shows me the math as to why getting 100% crit chance is great, then cool, we can substitute one of the other items on this list for another crit item. But my initial assumption would be that it's not needed, and the other 2 items on this list are probably more needed. So I'm going to leave it at that for our critical strike damage items. To round out the build, we have Penny's Pen. This is our last Whisper item. It's going to give us percent armor penetration, which is extremely necessary to help deal with tanks. And then our final item is going to be Redemption Gauntlets. This item is a broken version of Guardian's Angel from League of Legends. Essentially, what Redemption Gauntlets does is, you die, you don't die, and you immediately revive. You have 3 seconds where you're immune to damage and can move around freely, and you can fight back, but at 75% reduced damage. This item is just broken. I've spoken about it at length on other videos that I've made. The ability for an ADC to be able to fight while they're unable to get damage for 3 seconds or just freely reposition is just broken. And honestly, it should just be a final buy for pretty much anyone, I think, in my opinion. So that's the build. Pros of this build is that you do hit really hard and it scales really well. The cons of this build is that there is zero room for flexibility, pretty much. You can get rid of Penny's Pen or Redemption Gauntlets or something else, but you probably end up needing those. You've got no lifesteal and you've got no anti-heal in this, which is why we have this second build, which is just an alteration of the crit build, but with more flexibility and more defensive options built into it. It has Crystal Sword, Thunder Bowblade, Spiked Boots, Bloodpact Scythe, Penny's Pen, Quartering's Edge, which can be replaced with any other offensive item, especially if you want another crit item, and Redemption Gauntlets. Crystal Sword, Thunder Bowblade, and Spiked Boots we've already been over. The items together will give good attack speed, and it will give us 50% crit chance. We're skipping over Execreto in this build just so that way we can have more defensive options, and yes, we definitely are losing out on a lot of damage for this stuff. Bloodpact Scythe is kind of like Bloodthirster. It's going to give us attack speed, and it's going to give us lifesteal and AD. Every time we kill something, it's going to heal us. If we kill a champion, it's going to heal us more than what we kill a minion. Any excess healing done will provide a shield for us. This is, in my opinion, the best lifesteal item that an ADC can get. Granted, you could make arguments for other ones, but this one gives us lifesteal and attack speed, and it can provide us with a shield, which essentially means more health. Penny's Pen we've already been over, so I'm not going to go over it again. Quartering's Edge is an anti-heal item. Every time we hit somebody with a physical attack, it's going to apply a stack of grievous wounds, I guess we can call it. Like I said, we can replace this item with any type of other offensive item, in which case you would probably be getting that offensive item a little bit early in the build, or you can get more defensive stuff as well if you want. And then, of course, we're rounding out the build with Redemption Gauntlets because they're Redemption Gauntlets. So, like I said, a much more defensive build with flexibility to replace items as needed. The next two builds for Dante do have a reliance on Dante having magic damage scaling in his kit. It is assumed as of right now that Dante will have some sort of magic damage scaling in his kit, as all the guns in the game, which we're going to be utilizing for these builds, have both physical and magic damage in them, and Dante has a gun on his character, so our assumption is that he will work with the guns. So for our third build, it's going to be an on-hit build utilizing Divergent Bow, Spiked Boots, Torment Rifle, Ring of Enchantment, Force Phantom, Thunder Bowblade, and Redemption Gauntlets. Divergent Bow, while not necessary for an on-hit build, is extremely useful as it's going to make it so that all of our attacks ricochet to everyone else on the enemy team. Spiked Boots, like we mentioned before, is going to give us attack speed. Torment Rifle is going to do percent current health damage. Ring of Enchantment is going to do magic damage on hit and shred magic resist off our opponents, which is very nice since all the guns in the game do magic-based damage with their passives. Force Phantom is going to be our second gun. We can only have 2 guns in a build, and it's going to do a small bit of on-hit damage in addition to applying the Grievous Wounds debuff, which is going to be very nice when paired with Divergent Bow since we're going to be hitting several people on the enemy team. Thunder Bowblade as a 6th item was mostly just because I wanted another item that gave me a lot of attack speed. This item could be replaced with literally anything else of your choice, I think, and it would be fine. And last item, Redemption Gauntlets, because I think they're broken. Now, this 4th build for Dante does heavily index into magic damage, so once again, if his magic damage ratios aren't really there in his kit, then this build will have to see some changes to it. This 4th build aims to make Dante more of a spellcasting marksman instead of a traditional marksman. Gonna utilize Ripple Spell Rifle, Cryogenic Cannon, Charm of Invocation or Charm of Pure Mana, Ring of Enchantment, Forbidden Book, Redemption Gauntlets, and Boots of Choice. These items aren't listed in any particular order, as when you'll be getting these items will mostly depend on how early you're going to actually need them based on the kit, and how much they cost. Repulse Spell Rifle is going to be our first gun, and it's going to be the bread and butter of this kit. After casting a spell, our next auto attack is going to deal a good chunk of increased damage. And based on how Dante's kit looks, it does appear like this item is going to be used very effectively by him. Pair that with our second gun, Cryogenic Cannon, which is going to apply a slow every couple of autos, in addition to doing a nice bit of damage. This item, in theory, could be replaced by Torment Rifle. I just felt like having a slow in the kit would be nice, in addition to his slow that already exists, I believe, on his grenade. It's on one of his abilities. Charmification and Charm Pure Mana do the same thing. They both give mana to us, just one's physical and one's magic base. So whichever ratio is going to be better to us is what we're going to pick up. The thought process behind having this item is that we're going to be casting spells more often, so having more cooldown reduction and just a higher mana pool will allow us to stay in fights for longer and use our abilities to wave clear more often. Ring of Enchantment is just a nice item to help make our guns do more damage and shred magic resist, and since we're indexing more into magic damage, Ring of Enchantment's passive will also be doing more damage itself. Forbidden Book is our Grievous Wounds magic item. It kind of just gives good stats, and that's partially why it's in here. In theory, you could just replace this with any other item that you want. And Redemption Gauntlets because Redemption Gauntlets. And for boots, you can't really go wrong with anything. It's just going to mostly end up being if you want physical or magic damage, and which type of that you want. So, there's 4 builds for Dante. Now, I said at the start of this, I'd be doing 1 or 2 of these types of videos a day. I'm not going to do that. This took 2 days to edit. But I'm going to wait to see what they release on Friday for their Friday feature, and go from there in terms of what I want to do for making videos on this game. But thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, remember to like and subscribe. And remember, I've got a Twitch channel. Go follow me on there. Haven't been streaming too much on there because I've been just preoccupied with making videos as of right now. But hopefully I can get back to it soon. But thanks, guys, and I'll catch you later.